I guess I'm going to take a look at Facebook real quick and see if anybody's looked at that. It says 190 views. What that means is something else,
Yeah. All right, we're live. I've got a slide up. So.
Okay. All right, I got prayer. So the slide's up and not us, correct?
Correct.
But are we audible? Can they hear us?
I think so.
I hope people can hear us.
So be careful.
It's always, hey, mic is live. You never know what happens. So.
Yes, the mic is live. I can see the slide, and then there's two little pictures of us on the side. So we're good.
All right. And can we tell when people connect or?
We got 6 people, and
folks are coming on. Good. So you tell me when we're kind of at a point where you feel like you want to.
Thank you, Kathy Ann. She just said we can hear you.
Yeah.
Good.
Hope you found the service this morning. It's like finding Flat Maggie. You have to find the service this morning. So
right. I don't know why we can connect to YouTube now, but we couldn't earlier. So
yeah, I don't know. It's that's interesting. It's got to be something between. I wonder whether the iPad. I just texted Elizabeth. If the iPad had an update and maybe we didn't get it done, would that cause a conflict perhaps with YouTube? I don't know. We'll see. So
I have no idea. She's been in there playing with it, so she may have figured it out. But
all right,
we'll see. All right, we look good on YouTube, and I check Facebook, and we look good on Facebook. Got 9 people there.
Okay.
So we'll wait maybe another minute or so, and then we'll get going.
I could do a magic trick if I knew one.
Oh, cool.
If I knew one, I could do one.
No.
I can make a dog disappear. How about that? So let's make a dog disappear.
All right. Elizabeth said we're all good. Looking good.
All right.
All right. Glad something worked today.
Yeah, it was just, well, here's what back in when I was a performer too, what I learned or what I experienced, maybe put it this way, is that, oftentimes you'd have all these really good performances and then just one day out of the blue, like everybody on stage was just having a bad day. It's one of those weird things where it just like all the bad things happen in one particular performance. And it felt like that a little bit this morning, like we just couldn't get on track for whatever reason, just probably little things that most people didn't catch, but the fact that we couldn't get it connected to YouTube and it seemed like one thing after another, and it was just sort of crazy. So
it was weird. It was contagious this morning for sure.
And probably we're scrambling trying to make it work makes it feel worse for us. So yeah.
All right, let me stop sharing, and then it should just be us.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's Father Todd and Traci Scott. We're here, we think, on YouTube and on Facebook also. If you're trying to find our worship service and you're finding this, know that we're live now actually doing this. We had some trouble this morning. We don't know why we had trouble, but we couldn't get connected to YouTube. So if you missed the service, it's still up on Facebook and you can watch that, but we can't get it to YouTube and we don't know why, but our apologies. It was a morning of technological and liturgical glitches, one of those days. But you know what? We still worship Jesus, and we still got done what we need to get done. And so now we come together for what is really an important conversation that we all need to have. And so what I'd like to do to start out before we kind of dive into it is I'd like to offer a prayer to begin this morning. If you'd like to follow along and you have your prayer books by chance, this is from page 826. And this is a prayer for the poor and the neglected. So you're welcome to follow along, but you don't need to. You can hear just as well, I hope. So let's gather ourselves and put away all the technical glitches and all of the fun of the morning and focus on our task at hand and our conversation at hand. We'll begin with a prayer. Almighty and most merciful God, we remember before you all poor and neglected persons whom it would be easy for us to forget, the homeless and the destitute, the old and the sick, and all who have none to care for them. Help us to heal those who are broken in body or spirit, and to turn their sorrow into joy. Grant this, Father, for the love of your Son, who for our sake became poor, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here this morning. Traci, it's so good. I've seen you already this morning, and so now I'm seeing you over the internet, and it's good to be with you for this conversation. We wanted to have this morning, especially because we didn't want to wait, because Traci, as many of you know, has been involved in outreach at St. Margaret's for many, many, many years. She joined staff slightly over a year ago, and it's really been focusing a lot in her work space, getting people connected internally to the church. And if you're new to the church, finding your ways to get connected. But she's never given up that part where her passion for outreach has always been a part of her. And so we formalized that starting this year, where she's going to have some oversight as a staff member for outreach also. So part of this is because Traci is in an oversight position for outreach, but also because she didn't just start in outreach in January. She's been involved deeply with the area, within our community, being connected with different organizations. And she's always been great about coming into the office and helping us know what all that's going on. And as you can imagine, during this pandemic, in which we're going on month 11 now, which I never would have thought we would ever be talking about this. When we went away in March from live in-person worship, I never thought we'd be here in February having these same conversations, but yet here we are. And this time has not just caused us to have issues with being able to worship together, but it's caused issues for people deeply when it comes to having food, because they have no employment, because they've lost their jobs, people that struggle with being alone, and even more isolated now because folks are not apt to be able to help them in the same way because of this need to be distanced. Folks struggling with mental illnesses, with abuse and neglect and all sorts of conditions. And it's frankly overwhelming for a lot of folks, and it's overwhelming even in our area. I think sometimes we can believe that because we live in a fairly affluent society, we're untouched, and that just is not the truth, and not what we're finding to be the case. And so I asked Traci to kind of bring this conversation together. She got us some new technology, a new program. She and Elizabeth worked and kind of did some work on this. And we thought we'd have this conversation with you. It's born out of those situations and individual situations in which people contact the church and are in desperate need. And sometimes when you begin to help, you begin to realize that there's way more to the story and way more help than they need. And just as I tried to talk a little bit in the sermon this morning, if you were able to be with us, that not only is Jesus called to be there to help out, but so is his church. So too is his church called to be there and to help those that need healing and need cleansing and frankly need food and shelter and all those basic needs for their lives. And so we're going to talk about some needs in the area. And my role here is to stay out of the way. Traci's going to do most of this, and I'll interject where needed, if needed at all. But Traci, you're really our parish expert, if anything else, on what's going on. And so expert, you're knowledgeable, you know what's going on, and you have a deep heart for this. And so I'm going to turn this over to you, and you'll guide us through this. And people can comment, correct, on both formats, and we'll get some of those. We'll get those and try to skim through this as we're going and answer questions as we go. But Traci, first of all, thank you for being part of St. Margaret's as a parishioner for so many years. Thank you for being on staff. You're unbelievably great at what you do. And I'm excited about what you're going to share with us, because I think there's a part that St. Margaret's has to play for all of this.
I agree. Thank you. And I'm happy to be here. Happy to see all my outreach friends chiming in here on the comments. Y'all, I just miss you guys. I miss serving with you. I miss all the cool stuff we did together and we are doing together. And the need is greater than ever. And I just, over the last, I guess it started before Christmas, but over the last, couple of months, it's just growing and growing. And I just hear more awful stories. And I wanted to share them with you and see if I could inspire some, maybe some solutions for some problems, to just let you know about different ways you can help. You don't have to wait for St. Margaret's to tell you how to help. We want to give you some tools because we are also disjointed right now. We're not coming together every week. So I wanted to give you some ideas that you could fit into your own schedule. So this all kind of started recently. I guess one example, recently we had a family contact St. Margaret's, I think I think Elizabeth actually got the message and called them back, and it was a family, mom, dad, 2 daughters, ages 7 and 4. Their power was turned off because they got behind on their power bill because dad lost his job. This was actually a neighbor calling for them. They weren't looking for money. They didn't want help with the power bill. Honestly, they wanted a heater because they were cold, and it was earlier in January. It was freezing. It's been very cold. So I learned a lot about kerosene heaters and propane heaters very quickly. And Brian and I went and took them a kerosene heater. And I did that on purpose to kind of scope it out a little and see if, like Father Todd said, we do have a lot of people contacting us, and we try to only help those that are legitimate requests. And so I don't, I want to spend the church's money wisely, obviously. And so we went and kind of scoped it out a little bit, gave them the heater, followed back up with them. They're thrilled, they're warm, everyone's happy. But through that situation and in talking to the neighbor and the family, I found out that it's taking them 3 to 4 weeks to get an appointment with crisis assistance to get help with the bill, because crisis assistance helps pay bills like that and helps keep people in their homes. The closet had no clothes for the 2 girls. They just didn't have anything in their size. Social services said, "I'm sorry, we are overwhelmed. We're not going to be able to get to you anytime soon. Do the best you can," kind of a thing. The neighbors had to kind of kick in and start feeding them, because there are lots of places to get food, but they didn't have a refrigerator. They didn't have a stove to cook it on. So, I guess they could eat, snacks and stuff out of cans, so it was just a whole kind of, conglomeration of issues that this one family saw, and they're not alone. That's the problem. And so I started following up with a bunch of my contacts. I called several people at the shelter, at Crisis Assistance, at Operation Reach Out, at Common Heart. I kind of made my rounds and sort of did my little interviews to say, is this true? Are y'all? And every single one of them said, we are completely overwhelmed right now. I said, the need is so high right now. So many people are out of work. There is a moratorium on evictions, which is helping keep people in their homes. And that's good news. The shelter is actually working with about 200 families that are not at the shelter, that are still in their homes, but the shelter is trying to help keep them there because they don't want them to become homeless and then have to go to the shelter.
But Traci, just to be clear, this is all Union County, correct? We're talking
all Union County. I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't get into Mecklenburg because I'm sure it's probably worse. But this is just Union County. So even though there's a moratorium on evictions, the landlords are still pushing the issue. Because the landlords still have to pay their bills. They still have to pay their mortgage on the property. There's no moratorium on foreclosures at the moment. They have extended the eviction moratorium, I think, until the end of January, and probably the federal government and the state are probably going to keep extending that for a while. But that doesn't mean that they don't have to pay their back rent eventually. So all these people are going to be behind, and because they're thinking, I can't get kicked out, so I need to buy food instead of paying my rent, So everyone's going to get behind, and I hate to say it might get worse before it gets better.
And just to be clear, the end of January is today. That's it. This is it.
True. Yeah. So I don't know if I may have missed something this week. If Governor Cooper or I know the federal government's, discussing the new stimulus bill, and I think it has some of these extensions in there for unemployment and that kind of thing. But regardless, jobs are hard to come by. Even if there are jobs, they need cars to get there. And a lot of them don't have working cars. And if they have working cars, they can't buy gas. It's this whole snowball of just bad stuff. So let me see. The shelter they're at capacity for sure. And with social distancing during the pandemic, they had to go down to 60% capacity in the actual shelter and then set up a remote shelter in a hotel nearby. And so their staff has been like running themselves ragged trying to deal with 2 sites, basically, all of a sudden, having people in 2 sites and making sure everybody had food and making sure all the supplies are in both locations. And it's just been a lot of work for them during this pandemic. They don't have much of a waiting list, which is good because, like I said, they are trying to keep these people in their homes, so people aren't getting kicked out on the street. So anyway, that's just kind of what the shelter reported to me as far as that. As far as helping people pay their bills, there are several ways you can go about that in Union County. Union County Crisis Assistance is probably the best known entity for that. They help people if you come in and prove the need. You have to have a referral from social services or somewhere else. And then they help them pay their rent, pay their utility bills and that kind of thing, and help keep them in their homes. They are swamped with people needing help. They said the biggest need from the community and from us is money because they have to help. She said they in 2020 they spent about $400,000 helping about 1,200 families, and they expect that to increase by 50% in 2021. And she said we are definitely on track for that. Like they've already seen in January this huge volume increase already. Operation Reach Out is another. They're not as big as Crisis Assistance, but they also offer help with paying monthly bills and utility bills. And they ran out of funds in mid-January for the month after increasing their budget already for January. So they increased January's budget and they ran out by like January 15th. So they're telling people we can't do anything for you until February 1st, just.
Which means we're probably going to run out of money midway through February too, right?
Yeah,
so we can keep going. Gotcha.
Exactly. And they are finding that for a while with the power anyway, the power companies were not disconnecting people. And now they've started disconnecting people.
Okay.
So, which is what that family I told you about found out, as well as she knows that Union County Public Works is disconnecting people. So it's cold, and that's a problem. So that's about paying bills. And then food wise, we definitely have a lot of food available. We have a lot of pantries. We have a lot of mobile pantries. We have a lot of churches helping out that do a great job with food distribution in our community. And that has really ramped up over the last couple of years, which is awesome. But there's about 30,000 people, adults and kids that are kind of food insecure in Union County. I mean, there's a big demand, and that was kind of pre-pandemic. That was kind of early pandemic. And I think it's only gotten worse. So they are, the food need is pretty much being met right now, but we still have to continue what we're doing to help that effort. We've done a lot with Common Heart. We do a lot with Loaves and Fishes. I know a lot of people donate out, and I'll get into more of that, but over the years we've certainly supported those places as well as the shelter. The shelter has gotten into giving out a lot more food than they ever have in the past, so that's great. But the shelter's doing drive-through pantries with Common Heart twice a month, and they're getting about 250 to 300 families each time coming through those lines. And that's just one location. There's a lot of other locations. Bless you.
Thank you.
So in Common Heart, just to give you an idea, they're providing groceries to about 1,400 families each month. In 2020, they were serving about 1,400 families, and they operate about 9 traditional mobile and remote pantries in the county. So they have the county covered, which is great. And then, sorry, I know everybody. One more thing. The homeless tent city. We have a tent city for homeless people it's in Monroe, but I didn't know much about this. I've always kind of heard about it, but I got a little more information from the director at Operation Reach Out, and I thought this was fascinating and terrible. But inmates, when the Monroe jail gets too crowded, they just release people to make room. Whether or not they're, awaiting trial or whatever happens, they just release people. Those people, if they're convicted or if they're sex offenders or if they have any kind of criminal history, they cannot go to the shelter. Right. So they go to this tent city. I mean, they're homeless unless they can find a friend where they could sleep on a sofa or something. They're homeless. And Operation Reach Out lets them come in and shower, and they give them a pillow, a blanket, a tent, and towels and food, and just kind of set them up for, just to give them something to kind of start their life with. And they bought, she told me they bought 10 of these 3-man tents for January. And they were, again, all gone within, I think she said within 2 or 3 weeks. And so that's it's not a huge, a high need thing, but it's a critical need when these guys are just facing homelessness coming out of the jail. So we are called to help prisoners as well as we do with Kairos and other things that we do. So
it's one of the, you hear over and over again in scripture, it talks about helping the widows, the orphan, the prisoners. I mean, it's always the same kind of theme throughout it. And it's part of it. And so, it may not seem like the natural thing to do sometimes for some of us, but it's absolutely what the church is called to do. So,
right. So that's kind of my rundown of what's wrong and what's going on in the county right now. Do you have any?
First, what I'm hearing is we got issues with utility bills and being able to pay bills and being able to have food and shelter over heads and shelter for we don't always think about the ones that they may have committed crimes that affect their lives, but still they're not called to a life of homelessness, and so it's just expanding and expanding. So it feels. You use this word already. It's overwhelming, the need in the area, and the food we're doing okay at, but we can't let up on that as far as the community. But what are with all that? It's easy to sort of just okay. How do we begin to make a difference? And so I think back to the conversation I had with Dana when we were trying to get the preschool open. And it just seems so overwhelming, all this stuff to do. And we decided, okay, in order to get ourselves focused, right, where do we begin? What can we do to start to make a difference in this? And so with all this being said, what are your recommendations for us as ways we might be involved in making a difference in this?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. I'm reading your notes and seeing where we're going. See how that is?
I happen to have a slide right here that I can show you.
There you go.
All right, let me see if I can make this work. Here we go. There we go. All right. Hopefully everyone can see this.
I can see it. Hopefully everybody can.
Slide. Okay. So got a couple of slides. Actually, I lied. There's more than one slide. So, okay. I know in COVID times, we need to talk about ways we can help at home and ways we can help in person. So I tried to divide it up that way, helping remotely for those of us that can't leave our homes or just don't want to run the risk, obviously, or some in-person ways you can help as well. So from home, we need to pray. And 2 of the, I think, 6 or 7 people that I talked to said that to me right off the bat. I said, how can we help? And they said, we need your prayers. More than anything, we need your prayers. And we need you to pray for the people, the actual people that are struggling. But we also need you to pray for us, for the people that are working to help the homeless and the jobless and the hungry and the working poor of our county, our neighbors. So please pray. And we do obviously in church and in worship, but please pray daily at home with your families for all those people. I mean, there's just a lot of pain and suffering right now in our county and in our country. So please keep those prayers going. They obviously make a difference and we appreciate them. So I know everyone asks for your money and there's lots of very worthy causes to donate your money to. I'm just throwing this out there. If anybody wants a specific way to help very locally, Union County Crisis Assistance and Operation Reach Out are the two places that I mentioned that help with the monthly bills. And I think the monthly bill thing is very critical right now, as people are, like I said, struggling to stay in their homes and keep the lights on and keep their kids fed and all those things. So I think those are two very worthy causes, and I would encourage y'all to check them out and see what you think. The third bullet is something a little different. We just started at Parkwood High School. I had a social worker reach out to me that covers Parkwood and Waxhaw Elementary and Western Union, I think. And she asked if they have a student pantry at Parkwood that the teachers have been stocking. And that breaks my heart, and teachers should not have to do that. It does not surprise me. I can't see Father Todd right now, but I'm sure he's like nodding his head going, yes, I watch my wife do this.
They don't get enough money to do that. So
yeah, they do not have the money for that. And nor should they be expected to do that. So these would be this pantry is obviously for students that need food and need toiletry items and just don't have enough at home. Our awesome volunteer, Kathy Ballard, is continuing the effort that we have going at South Providence School in Waxhaw. For a few years now, we've been doing backpack snacks for them, where Kathy packs up a bag of snacks that the students can take home over the weekend and probably share them with brothers and sisters. But it's just some extra food to get them through the weekend. So that's kind of the same thing that's going on at Parkwood High School, but there's about 20 students that the guidance counselors and social workers know about at Parkwood that kind of fall in this bucket. They have a source, I think maybe another church that's helping them with the food, but they asked us for help with the toiletry items. So I already delivered one batch of shampoo, deodorant, toothbrushes, all that kind of stuff. And we figured probably every 4 to 6 weeks, we'd need to replenish that. So Elizabeth helped me set up an Amazon wish list that we're just going to leave out there. And anybody, I certainly don't have to be a St. Margaret's member, share this with your friends and neighbors. Whoever wants to shop on this Amazon wish list, the items will be sent to us here at the church. And then we will gather it all together and get it over to Parkwood when the time is right. So that's a really nice way to help. And I know I'm on Amazon a lot, so I'm sure y'all are too. Throw an extra bottle of shampoo in your cart and help some kids out at the high school. You can also, the 3-man tents that I mentioned for the tent city. She said those are available at Walmart or Academy, and they're about $25. We want to make sure they're 3-man tents, though, because that gives the people a little more room to keep whatever items they may have to kind of keep it safe and keep it in the tent with them. That gives just a little extra space for an adult man probably to be sleeping in there. So you are welcome to buy those 3-man tents. You could have them shipped to Operation Reach Out. You can drop them off at the church, however you want to handle that. Let me know, and we'll make sure it gets to Operation Reach Out. If we see a tent show up here, we definitely know what it's for. And then we are still collecting food. Remember how we used to always have the red wagon during worship service? Instead of the red wagon, we have a black and yellow box outside the back door. And awesome Elaine Sweeney has been quietly, all during the pandemic, you didn't even know she was doing it, but she's been taking our donations over to Loaves and Fishes weekly. Just a little caveat to that, the week of February 7th, that food collection will actually go to the shelter because they're doing their annual Super Bowl event to collect food and money. So that one week it will go to the shelter, and you're welcome to donate extra that week if you want to funnel some more to the shelter. So that's a great way to help. And that's a great way that box is always out there. You can drop it off day or night according to your schedule and involve the kids with it, however you want to make that part of your family's life. So, all right. Sorry, more ways to help from home. You thought you were done. Beds. We have yet another new program at the shelter. When a person goes through their program, They have case management program. They have to meet certain thresholds. They have to look for jobs. They have to do, they have to do all kinds of things that the shelter walks them through. And once they have completed the program at the shelter helps them move into permanent housing. That's obviously the goal, as quickly as they can, ensuring that they're stable and that they're going to be able to maintain that lifestyle. And they do follow everyone that leaves the shelter. They follow them for at least a year and make sure that things are stable. So when they move out of the shelter, they need furniture. They usually have nothing when they come to the shelter. There's programs through Second Chance and through some other things where you can donate furniture that they can use, but they want to give them a new bed. Obviously, I think we all deserve a new bed and not someone's used dirty mattress. So we made a deal with a local furniture company in Monroe, and they are going to sell us the beds for a certain price. And I think it's I have the pricing. It's on that Breeze form. If you click on this Breeze form that we made, I think it's about $280 for a twin bed, a whole set, mattress, box springs, and frame. And they'll deliver it to the shelter's storage unit. So when someone's leaving, they can have a new bed. So we set up a form. St. Margaret's parishioners can go in there, buy as many beds as you want, or you don't have to. I know $280 may be too much for you right now. If you could do $50, if you could do any amount on that form, we'll apply it towards a partial bed, and we'll eventually get enough for a full bed. So we already did 6 beds. We went ahead and donated 6 beds, just using outreach funds to the shelter. And I haven't heard from her yet, but I think she'll go through 6 beds in max of 2 weeks. They're moving that many people out, which is great. But they do have that much volume and turnover. So that's a new program that we're really excited about at the church. So I encourage y'all to look at that. And again, that's going to be up all year long. We're going to keep that running, and we're going to keep reminding you of it. So whenever you can donate to that, that would be wonderful. We are continuing to provide dinner at the shelter. You probably remember that Karen Shaphorst, our dedicated shelter meal provider, has been running this program for, I think 4 years now, maybe 5, I can't remember. But 6 times a year, back in the day, we used to all get together in our kitchen here at church, make the dinner, take the food over to the shelter and serve. We would have 2 groups. One group would cook and one group would serve. We haven't been able to do that, obviously, but Karen, again, in the background, nobody knew. She was still going to Costco, buying all the food, doing everything, and dropping the food off at the shelter. And then the shelter staff would serve it during the pandemic. In March, she just did that for January as well. But we decided in March and for the rest of the year, we're going to ask you guys for help again. We're going to ask y'all to help us cook and bake at your homes. Yeah. Maybe she sends out a recipe and everybody makes the same recipe and we come up with enough to feed. I think we have to feed about 75 people right now per meal. So we're going to ask you for your help again. If not, you can bake some cookies and brownies like y'all used to and drop them off and we'll get it over there. So that'll keep that on your radar. Donate clothing. There's lots of places to do that and lots of places need it. And the closet in Monroe is wonderful. They let the closet and Christ Closet let people come in and, shop, quote unquote, for free and get what they need. So they can get the right sizes, the right, long pants, short pants, whatever they need. And this, let me see if I can get to it real quick. This it's kind of chopped up here, but this little flyer has been on our Thursday announcements for the last couple of weeks, but it tells you a little bit about each site that we're encouraging y'all to drop off things. And it doesn't just have to be clothing. It can be household items and other things as well. And you can even donate furniture at Turning Point to Second Chance. So y'all can read about that. I'm not going to read y'all through all that. And most of y'all are familiar with these places, but I get this question a lot. I'm cleaning up my closet. Where can I take this stuff? So here's all the information you need about where to take things. Let's see. Okay. And then the other thing that doesn't really have to do much with what I've been talking about today, but we have an opportunity within St. Margaret's. There are a lot of people in our church that we would love to check on more often. We would love to write letters to. We'd love to call. We'd love to just make sure they're doing okay. And we just don't really have the manpower and the volunteer force, I guess, to make that happen weekly or monthly or whatever. So if anyone's interested in me assigning them a name or two or whatever, just for you to kind of follow up with, reach out to me and let me know. I know some people in our assisted living places would love to get a letter every once in a while. They may not, you may not be able to catch them on the phone, but a letter or a card or just something just to break up their day would be very welcome. So let me know if anybody's interested in that. I already have some fabulous volunteers that are doing a lot of that for us, which is just so appreciated. So thank you. Okay, now ways to help in person. I scheduled, I hope I'm not going to regret this and I'm not going to be the only one there, but I scheduled a St. Margaret's. I know Father Todd will come with me if I need him to.
I'll put it on my schedule.
Right. Actually, I know Joni probably would come with me. But we're going to just go to the closet and help them sort. They're doing private sortings, private groups. So they'll, separate us and we'll have all, even amongst us, we'll be socially distanced and masked and all that good stuff. But they need help sorting the donations that they are getting. And let me pause to mention an amazing donation that the Cameron family just did with Belk. Eric Cameron works for Belk, and Joni and I we were talking about some of this, and they called Belk and asked for a donation, and they got a ton of clothing that were all like samples that Belk normally is able to sell at their sample sales, but they can't have sample sales right now. So they had a ton of children's clothes that the Cameron family just dropped off at the closet. So I bet we're going to be sorting some of that, which is awesome.
But I literally just put it on my calendar as you're sitting here talking. So
good. So maybe we'll have a cameo by Father Todd. That'll be
there. You go. We'll Facebook Live in person from the closet. So.
Oh gosh, we're gonna do remote reporting now.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so that's February 11th from 11 to 1. Please let me know you're coming though, so we make sure we don't have, I'm sure we're not gonna have the problem of having too many people, but I just want to know who's coming so we can all be safe. And then another new program that we're trying to start, inspired by something Father Todd brought up. We want to do a community worker snack attack. We want to take snacks. Father Todd wants us to take Chick-fil-A, biscuits or coffee or whatever to the police one day. We want to show up at the fire department and give them some cookies it's very low key, but I would love to get someone in charge of each month just making that delivery. And we just decide, I talk to you, we decide where you're going to go. We make a phone call and say about how much, how many people we talking about. And then you and your family, you and a friend, however you want to do it, show up with some snacks and just say, we're praying for you. We appreciate you. A lot of these people don't hear that right now. So I think we need to spread that. That's another way to spread love in our community. And all these people are doing an amazing job and usually don't get much thanks for it. So
Traci, let me jump in. Let me encourage something else. When we do this, I would encourage you to not only tell folks that we're praying for you, but to actually in the moment stop and pray for them in their presence. And I know that can be kind of scary, but that, the power of that is unbelievable. And it's one thing to know that people are saying, hey, we're praying for you. It's a different thing than when you stop and say, can I pray for you right now? And that can be a moment of great importance. And I don't want that to get lost, because it's really easy to say, hey, I'm going to pray for you when I get back home. It's the same thing with our children, frankly, that we can pray for our children, but there's something about when we do it with them there as they hear it that takes it somewhere else. And so I'd encourage you to think about that as we try to reach out to community workers, firefighters, school social workers, hospital. There's all kinds of places we can go, but I think that giving them whatever that snack is, but also praying for them in the moment, it might open some doors for them down the road where it can open up all sorts of possibilities. So I encourage you to think about that.
Yeah, great point. True. I mentioned the shelter meals that we do through the church and that Karen Shaphorst coordinates for us. You, your family, a friend group, you can also sign up to serve a meal at the shelter on your own. They serve 3 hot meals a day. Our family has signed up before to just provide lunch, and we made a bunch of sandwiches and took some fruit and other stuff. And we just decided that was something we wanted to do as a family. They only allow 4 people in the kitchen right now to serve. So that's a perfect thing for a family of 4, or, like I said, you and your neighbors, or however you want to split it up. But they have a great calendar on their kitchen. You can see what days they need help with. They had a lot of churches that have had to drop out over the last year because their volunteers were older and are just not able to expose themselves to the virus in that way. Obviously, the kitchen is, very distant and safe and clean and masked and all that stuff. And everyone that comes through the line is masked. I mean, they are the cleanliness and the protocols that they're following at the shelter are great. I promise. I've been there. I think I was there in October, November, and they're doing a great job. So it is safe. But of course, we all have different risk levels. So consider that. It's something you might want to do on your own. And then Common Heart. I know you guys are tired of me talking about Common Heart, but they have a lot of pantry opportunities to serve. And we did an awesome one back in May over in Monroe that we had, I think, 25 people from St. Margaret's came, and it was a very inspirational day. We did another one at Liberty Hill that was fabulous, but it was a day like today where it was just awful and rainy and terrible. But we still managed to get some smiles on people's faces. So
the one in May was, you showed up there, and I had no idea. We're talking May, which is still earlier parts of the pandemic, but still months in. But it just, as I drove in and saw the traffic, it was overwhelming to see the need. And we're many months removed from that. I can only imagine that it's greater. So I remember that day sort of getting out of my car, like, I can't believe what I'm seeing in Union County. It was amazing. When
you have 300 plus cars lined up, it's hard to take it all in. And they were turning people away at the end. They ran out of food, so it breaks your heart when you have to tell people we're done. But those are powerful. Yeah. And Common Heart has a lot of, you can work at those mobile pantries where they say mobile, but you can also work at their location. They have a facility in Indian Trail, and you could sign up to work. They have multiple days during the week where you can just help them sort food or get ready for a pantry or whatever. And that's a little less exposure. I mean, you're in their clean facility. So things to look at, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about Common Heart. I sing their praises. They're just doing amazing, amazing work in our community.
And Traci, before you go on too long, well, you're going right to it. Ways to help questions, but I've seen a couple of questions that popped up. I just want to make sure that you address. Okay. And if we don't know the answers, what we'll do is we'll find them for you and get back to you. But I'm going to come out. I got to lean down so I can see what this is. But Sarah Smith, do we need to register online before we can sign up to cook and serve a meal? I'm assuming at the shelter. So if someone wants to do it individually, how would they do that?
Yeah. So if you go to that, and let me also say, we're going to make this presentation available to y'all. We're going to send out a link. So you'll have all these links. I know you're trying to write down these links real quick, but these are live links in this presentation. So you'll be able to go back and find these later or use these later. Yes. So you do not have to sign up as a qualified volunteer at the shelter. You don't have to go through their volunteer forms and all that stuff. You can go to that link to unionshelter.org/kitchen and look at the the calendar and find, a lunch or something you want to do and click on that, and it'll just kind of walk you through the steps. You may have to answer a few questions, but you don't have to get qualified or anything like that. They will take you
Gotcha.
anywhere they can get you.
And Bill's also, I'm going to go from the bottom up, so because that's what's showing on my computer first. But Bill's asking, would you like us to mention St. Margaret's Church as we make donations or offer help for some of these places? And certainly, if there's a way to do that, I would think that'd be wonderful to do. So,
yeah, I mean, certainly, you're welcome to do that if that they know us, which is great because we have awesome people that have been serving for a long time. So,
and Paula, just to let you know, Paula says, Paula Holbein, she wants to take the March snack attack. Look at Paula.
Yay,
Paula's awesome. So yeah,
Paula's one of my rock stars.
Well, she's a rock. She's just everybody's a rock star in the outreach world, but Paula just goes above and beyond. So she wants to take March. So we'll get we'll Tracy. I'm assuming you'll remember that. So I'm trying to think of. I saw a suggestion. I think somewhere somebody suggested, like, if we're cooking the meals together for the shelter, but doing them at home, like we're cooking, would it be cool to, you cook at the same time and then you connect somehow on, and you're like video chatting each other. That'd be kind of cool to do.
Yeah, you do a little call or something. That's a great idea.
A little social time while you're cooking together. You can't be in the same place, but you can still connect, kind of what we're doing. That'd be kind of, we need to figure out how to make that happen. So
yeah, we're getting all fancy with our streaming now, so maybe we can do that. That'd be fun.
You knew St. Margaret's would be so hip when it comes to technology, even though it didn't work this morning. But
we're so great. We can't even get our worship service online.
I don't see. I think it's important. There's been a couple of questions or just some comments that we are going to make the links available to you afterwards. Mm-hmm. Important, not just for y'all to have, but what I would encourage you to do is this isn't proprietary to St. Margaret's. Like, these links you can share with anybody you want to. You can get any of your neighbors involved in this. This isn't about just holding on to this. This is about getting the word out into the community. And these are great opportunities for perhaps even your neighbors that don't have a faith community, to bring them into some of what we're doing and invite them into this, because there's such a big need. And I do think that even when the pandemic's over, this is not going to go away. Mm-hmm. As Tracy mentioned before, it's great that they're not taking rent and kicking people out. But the fact is, if you haven't paid rent for a year and then the pandemic's done, or 2 years, right? But you got 2 years of rent that you haven't paid. This is going to be something that affects our society for a long, long time. And so we're beginning the process of coming together in a much more intentional way. We've been doing a lot of things, but we're adding more to our plate because the need's out there, and we have a responsibility as a church that continues to do well and continues to have a large number of people to reach out and to reach the widows and the orphans and the ones without power and the ones without electricity. Well, power and electricity would be the same thing. Without food, without shelter. That is our call and our mission in this world. And so we need to continue to find ways to do that. So I want you to share this with your friends and your family there in the local area and with your neighbors. And if you're doing something, invite them into this and find ways to encourage more participation. It's not just about our folks, it's about spreading the word. So
yeah, I do that all the time. I if we need volunteers for something, I call friends that don't go here and just say, hey, are you guys free? Come with me. So invite people. That always works. Yeah. Crystal, you mentioned the Bank of America. Yeah, like matching contributions. Yes, absolutely. All these places I'm talking about are 501c3s. They would qualify for matching. So yeah, check that out with your companies. If they'll match, that's even better. I will. Yes, Christine, I will. We are gonna email. I'm gonna email. I'll do a blast to the church and have the PowerPoint connected. So you'll have all those links, and then, a link back to this recording on YouTube so people can watch it again or go back and hear a certain part. So yes, we will absolutely get you all of this information as quickly as I can. So let me just finish one more screen here, and then we will wrap it up. So this is my, obviously that's me. Connection at stmargarets.net is where you can find me if you have any questions. And then I follow all these people on Facebook. You might not want to follow all these people on Facebook. It's a lot. But if this is where they put out a call. Like Common Heart the other day said, we don't have any cereal. We need cereal. That's where they put those kinds of urgent needs out. So if you're interested in any of these in particular on Facebook, these are their addresses. So you'll have that, and you can follow them directly and see what they need. And then that's just that. So I will stop sharing and see if there's any more questions. And if not, we will let everybody enjoy their Sunday.
Yeah, I see a lot of thank yous. I think we've gotten the questions so far that have popped up. If there's any more, we can vamp for another few minutes. I can preach another sermon, and we can wait, or maybe Traci, you've done such a great job. I think it's pretty clear that there's a desperate need, and you've given us some good resources by which to do that. And we're going to have some organized things from St. Margaret's. But what I'm also hearing is that don't wait for those organized moments for St. Margaret's. There's so much to do that we can. This is a great opportunity to spread out. Jesus sent his disciples out 2 by 2. And sometimes in pandemics, maybe it's one by themselves to go connect with other people to do work. But this is a great opportunity for us to find ways to connect. I frankly, what I learned today that I didn't know about the whole, because you and I had not had that conversation yet, the whole men coming out of prison in Monroe and sort of thinking that through, and the realization of what they're struggling with and what their reality is. And I'm trying to visualize where that is. I mean, I don't know where it is in Monroe, but it's devastating. Yeah, my guess is it would be very sobering for us to go over and see. Just like I've been by the one in Uptown Charlotte. It's sobering to see what this has done to all sorts of people. And so I know like I said, it's easy to get overwhelmed, but I think that what we do is 1 by 1 and 2 by 2, we begin to come together. And what can we do to make a difference? And you've given us some great resources to do that. First of all, and I also want to say this, if people didn't know this yet, they do know this now, that you are absolutely awesome at what you do. And she's going to be like, oh, I'm not. Traci Scott is passionate about helping people who are less fortunate than ourselves. She's passionate about connection and about evangelization of the gospel through our words and through our actions out loud and in public. You should have heard that phrase before. And the fact of the matter is she is so good at what she does. And we on staff and those close by St. Margaret's know that she's awesome. But now everybody who's on today and is going to watch this later is going to know how awesome you are. And she's a great resource. And so I encourage you to use Traci as that resource in order for us to get more engaged in the needs of the world. So are you embarrassed enough yet?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate all the kind words. And I also don't know everything. So please tell me if there are people on here that are connected with other resources in Union County that we should be. I mean, I know there's tons and tons of amazing.
Yeah, we haven't named them all, right? I mean, we haven't named. We got Treehouse. The one that's close to my heart is Treehouse, which is. But there's so many things to do. There's so many things
to do, and there's so many worthy causes, and that's been the struggle over the last 4 or 5 years with outreach. Like, how do we can only do so much. So, let me know if y'all have ideas or anything. I'm certainly willing to help, to hear it and talk about it. So.
Okay. Well, if I am reading this correct, I think we've gotten all the questions answered. If there's more that come up later, feel free. Traci has given you her address, her email address and phone number. She's going to make those available to you in another format, so you don't have to write all this down. And so I think that, unless we just want to keep just talking, which I'm fine. I got nowhere else to go. There's no football on today. There's nothing else to really do except go outside in the rain and walk 5 miles in the rain, which is going to be fun to do today. So
I messed up your coffee run too. So
I do. People don't realize. So after live streaming, my first thing I do is I do a coffee run. I come home, I drink a cup of coffee, I walk 5 miles, then I take a little nap. It's all out of kilter now for the rest of the day. So
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. I'd rather do this than anything else. I'd rather worship together. I'd rather do outreach together. I'd rather pray together, and that's what we do as a church.
Yeah.
I think we got everything. I don't see any other questions. So we have her information there. If we're in a good place, Traci, I'd like to offer another prayer to finish us up. We got some, and I've got another. Well, I don't want to say it. I guess I shouldn't say what it is, but I got something close to my heart that I'm researching. That's going to be. It's not a long-term thing. It would be a financial maybe financial thing for us to help change the life of a family. And I'll tell you more as I do a little more research before I go down that road. But it's a pretty important thing. But that's nothing imminent. But I'll let you know later as I learn more. But until then, how about if we take a couple deep breaths, kind of sift through. In fact, don't even do that. Just take a couple deep breaths and not worry about everything that we've heard, and just kind of focus on praying about this. And praying not just for those who are on the front lines and those who are affected adversely, but maybe where Jesus might be calling us in our hearts to do something and to respond. And so let's take a moment of silence, and then I'll do a prayer for us. Gracious Father, I give you thanks for this day. I thank you for the blessing of St. Margaret's. I most especially thank you for the gift of Traci and for her hard work and for her connection in the community throughout Union County with all these wonderful organizations in order first and foremost to help those in desperate need, those who are less fortunate than ourselves, those who have no place to turn. And we know that as your son Jesus came into this world, he healed person after person and he fed person after person. And even when the disciples were tired and asked Jesus to send the people away because they had nothing to share, Jesus called them together. He gave thanks, he fed them, and he blessed them. And we know that your church is called to do the same. And so be with us not just in this time together this morning, but move our hearts and move our souls to reach out into the world and find those who are hungry, find those who are in the rain this day without shelter, those that are in homes but cannot pay their bills, those who are alone or afraid, those who are widowed and orphaned, those that are locked up in prison. And help us to preach the good news of Jesus in their lives and to share a meal with them, to share our resources with them, to pray for them, that they might know that they are loved just as you love us. I thank you for the good work already begun at St. Margaret's. I thank you for our faithful staff. But most of all, give us your wisdom. Help us to know what you would have us to do on this day and in the coming days. Help us in all that we do to preach your name out loud and in public. In all this we pray in the name of God, who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you.
All right. So I think I don't see anything else. So Traci, if you're good, you're going to disconnect us, I guess. So I'll stay on if you got other thoughts. We did 55, 56, 57 minutes. All right. So we did pretty well. And we're on YouTube. I don't know why. We couldn't get on Worship Wise, but we're on for this. And maybe if we had to pick one of the two, maybe for this morning, this one needed to go out to as many people as we could. So we're thankful for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. And thanks everybody for joining us. It's so good to see all your comments and your likes and your loves. And I miss you all. So enjoy your Sunday.
All right. Take care and God bless you all. Okay.
Bye.